Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're going to be listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast. In our 20th year, we're brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, more than 6 decades of doing great things for folks living in San Diego County, whether it's food insecurity, working with the Alzheimer's Association, homeless, everything in between. They do great work with us. Just so pleased to have in the studio with us today Johnathon. He is a Prebys Senior Art and Design Fellow in residence at the Downtown San Diego Partnership. How you doing, Johnathon?
Great. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're honored to have you, and I'm honored to have as my guest co-host. She'll be doing a curiosity ship, and for our Spotlight listeners, we definitely know what that means. It's an internship. We call it a curiosity ship. We have Stella Dillon. She will be an incoming sophomore at NYU. How you doing there, Stella?
I'm good. I'm doing well.
Very good. Thanks for jumping right in here. What we do with our curiosity shippers, we don't tell them they're going to be a co-host until they arrive at the studio, and they don't run away. They come in and they do it full bore, and they do a great job. And I think Johnathon still has a question for you right out of the gate.
Yeah, well, what's your role in revitalizing San Diego's downtown arts community?
Firstly, congratulations. I love the name, Curiosity.
Thank you.
So I guess it's just to set the platform for this. This is something that has, this overall revitalization effort through art and design is something that we've been working towards for a number of years. I joined the city of San Diego in October of 2017 as the then director of the Department of Cultural Affairs. And one of the first things I worked on was creating a downtown arts district around the performing arts buildings, the Civic, the Balboa, Spreckles. Little did I know that the Downtown Partnership was working on the same thing. So Kismet's, it was a great way that we could start to partner. Something happened called COVID, and everything paused. But as we were coming out of COVID, the partnership realized that we have this very special part of downtown that we really needed to both invest in but also leverage in a much bigger way, which is this area that we now call the Art and Design District. While that was all happening, in addition to that, we also did the city's first cultural plan called Creative City. And Creative City, comprehensive, citywide arts planning document, 10-year visioning document. There were some really important things that came out of this. Artists are really at risk because of high costs of housing here, but also really access to workspace as well as living space. Construction, presentation, production space, the whole thing. So we had that issue. We also recognize that the overall brand of San Diego as a culture and a creative place, we needed to really lean into and really pump that up. And then there's a lot of issues in downtown as far as baseline revitalization, like every other American city. So I have the good fortune last November of being invited to the Prebys Foundation to work with Prebys Foundation and the Downtown Partnership to really significantly leverage our existing arts assets in downtown, but also to invite artists and creative industries to find their home in downtown in a way that perhaps has never been before.
Now, with that, as you had mentioned before, there's sort of a shortage of space, and if there is space, it is phenomenally expensive. We all know that, and the Prebys Foundation, we know, are just all over the board and helping in so many different areas. And really, kudos to Grant, who came in from Pittsburgh. He understands how to do this stuff, and obviously with your experience in this area, so. That's no surprise, but you said something that's really interesting, Johnathon. I wanted to, lean on, talking about, you needed to raise the brand of San Diego, maybe from the creative aspect of it. However, San Diego is well known for its innovation, and we all know that in biotech and biomed and all that. Does it make it easier to some extent because, hey, we've done this in the biomed area, we've been innovative and creative, we should be doing the same in cards? Or am I wrong on that?
No, absolutely. We did this 40 years ago with the tech sector, so we know how to do it.
Exactly.
So, something else happened in San Diego a few years ago, World Design Capital 2024.
That's right.
And what that did for us was created a platform where artists and the whole of the nonprofit sector, art sector, and creative industries of all types came together to really do two things. Elevate the visibility of our creative sector here, which we know pumps out about $11 billion every year in economic impact. Well over 100,000 people employed in the sector, so it's consequential from an economic development perspective. And that we have a really unique creative community here, in part because we have people in the tech sector. We have creatives that can work in the tech sector, and then work in the more traditional side of the work as well. And then we're a border city. We're the largest land border community, as you know, in the Americas, which means a lot of our creatives are in Tijuana and they're doing the work on both sides.
Yeah, well, you brought up something near and dear to our heart, because we had Malin Burnham and Tad Parzan on talking about when they got World Design, deal, and they were competing with was a group in Europe, correct? Do you remember who it was? What city it was?
Moscow.
Okay, thank you. That city, but. Because Malin, and anyone who has been in San Diego for more than 5 seconds knows who Malin Burnham is, his affinity for Tijuana and across the border, it was a San Diego-Tijuana partnership, and as you know, I'm preaching to the congregation, you know all this, and that, I think, sold it, to be honest with you, in many ways, and we know we have the richest border around, and we need to be taking advantage of it, and as many groups that are working on that aspect of it. We're talking. The Johnathon Glussie is the Prebys Senior Art Design Fellow and Residence at Downtown San Diego Partnership. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest running community podcast, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 60 years of doing great things in San Diego County, joined by my guest co-host, Ella Dillon. She is doing a curiosity ship for us at Cloudcast Media, would be an incoming sophomore at NYU. You can't help but think, Stella, when you think about NYU, you talk about culture and about all the world that you're in. So this must be something of a great interest to you, what Johnathon does, correct?
Yeah, well, NYU, I have a ton of friends in arts, a ton of friends curious about it, curious about trying to find their major and everything. So it definitely is interesting, and I definitely want to bring them here.
Yeah, you should. It's a great place for it. Johnathon, where were you before you got to San Diego?
Before I was in the city of Sacramento for about a year and a half, working on a project there that actually was on creative industries. Building relationships with the tech sector in the Bay Area and the creative industries in Sacramento. And then before that, 10 years in Houston, running the Houston Arts Alliance.
Yeah, we come back from break. We're going to talk a little bit about the future of San Diego's creative downtown, the importance of arts and culture. You already mentioned $11 billion that it contributes to the socioeconomic background here. Some of the challenges, we mentioned a little bit of it. Certainly the space is an issue and the cost and all that business. But really, the sky's the limit. We got some great universities, to say the least, down here. And I think, and I'd love for you to address this, think about this too. We have a lot of environmental groups that come on the show. I don't know if there's any place that is diverse, from an environmental standpoint than San Diego. You got the desert, you got the beach, you got the mountains, you got just everything in that area. I'm not sure if that will help create some of the ideas that you're talking about when we return with Johnathon Gluss, Prebys Senior Art and Design Fellow in residence at Downtown San Diego Partnership after a very short break.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing great things for folks living in San Diego County. Honored to have Johnathon Gluss, Prebys Senior Art and Design Fellow in residence at the Downtown San Diego Partnership, with us today, joined by my guest co-host, Ella Dillon, doing a curiosity ship for Cloudcast Media. She'll be an incoming sophomore at NYU, and I think that you have a question for Johnathon.
Yeah, well, what's your vision for the future of San Diego's creative downtown?
So, Stella, first, I studied urban economics in undergrad and art history in grad. So there's a big space for you in this kind of work if you're interested in it. And you're exactly the type of person that we want to make sure stays in San Diego or comes home to San Diego. So I'm glad you're here today. Thank you for the opportunity. So the big picture of downtown and the creative community. Well, going back to what you said about our unique place in the environmental space, obviously we have a deep history in the military sector as well. We do. So one example of how we were setting ourselves apart, and I think that's a really important thing to touch on, is in the United States, artists and creatives kind of galvanize around not only the universities they come out of, but also the communities they come from, right? So a lot of our artists work in this space. They respond to the fact that we live in this beautiful environment, whether it's the high desert or the water or what have you. They also are really good storytellers and communicators when there's issues we have to address, like the Tijuana River Valley and everything that's happened around that. One of the things that we were very successful with, and when I say we, this was really a community at large, Prebys, working with the Department of Cultural Affairs, working with a number of other regional foundations, we launched something a few years ago called Far South Border North. That employed well over 600 artists from San Diego County and Imperial County. This was coming out of COVID, and their job was to actually communicate at the community level across the region about access to healthcare in regards to COVID. It became a national model. A lot of the artists that were involved in that, it was the first time that they actually were paid artists, which gave them the sense that they actually can have a career as an artist that also is a livelihood. And there's a 2.0 of that right now called Artist Count that Prebys is working on with SD Art Matters and a few other foundations.
We're working with Bob on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Frequent guest on the show.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, great example of how we're really digging into and through a number of partnerships, investing in artists and creatives in a very intentional way. Specific to downtown, the plan or the vision over the next few years is that we do a lot. We're basically creating a matching program so that if you're an artist or a creative business and you are looking for space that's on mass transit, that is affordable, that is highly visible, we want you in downtown. And we want you in downtown because we want to create a space for working artists and the business of contemporary art. So everything from all the varieties of design, but also the back house of the arts industry. That historically is kind of scattered throughout San Diego. It's never really had a home. We want to create that home downtown.
Right, and how will places like Park and Market tie into that? Park and Market is UCSD's a gig down there, and we mentioned two of the folks involved in that, Malin Burnham and Tad Parson, who love working with groups like Prebys and so forth. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's a great example. Park and Market is designed to be the platform for community conversations. So, broad picture, if you think about this as the Creative City Initiative, we are working with the Park and Market team to begin a conversation series or a lecture series at Park and Market. Also in that space, if you think about it, is UCSD's Depot that is coming back online. New Children's Museum is is downtown as well.
Right.
So we have this really wonderful cohort of arts organizations downtown that for the first time we have the opportunity to actually think as a cohort in the same way that our cultural districts do that: Balboa Park, Liberty Station, etc.
Well, and still, how much time you spent at the museums in San Diego County, and everyone thinks that they live and they only go through Balboa Park. There's like 6 zillion museums as far up in the North County and in the South as well. Johnathon, talk about your work with our amazing museums.
Yeah. Museums are near and dear to my heart. And one of the reasons why I actually chose to move here is because of the robust art sector, but museum sector in particular. So we have everything from Oceanside Museum. You interviewed Maria recently.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, exciting
that
project.
Right.
And then we have New Americans Museum.
Right in Balboa Park. In Liberty Station.
Yeah. Niche museum that's really about the immigrant community here and our immigrant story. ICA, or the Institute of Contemporary Art, that is about artists from across the world coming here for special projects. We have such a broad, and one of the things that I think is a great model, our museums are a great model for, is you can be a museum professional and build an entire career here. You do not have to leave San Diego if you want to work in the museum sector. A lot of cities can't say that. You have to move from city to city to city. You don't have to here.
You know, what's interesting about this, something that's near and dear to our heart. I mean, personally, and of course, I think with the Spotlight Show and then Cloudcast in general, is when we talk about careers. And I always remind people that, listen, you don't have to be an artist to be in the art career. I mean, you can be someone who is going to market the arts. You can be someone that's going to be a spokesperson for the arts. You can be a lawyer for the arts and all this. So there's a ton of this. The example I always use when I worked for the Union Tribune, back in the day, we had 2,400 employees, give or take. 1/8 of them wrote. 7/8 of us did everything but write. And I didn't realize that. And the same thing when you talk about cyber and all that aspect of it. So there's plenty of space for people in the art that aren't necessarily artists. Talk about that.
Well, I'm a great example. I'm not an artist. I've been around artists my entire life. I have huge respect for it, but very early on, I learned that is not my path. But I do know how to bring resources to artists. I understand how they can be part of a team to find solutions. And most importantly, art is what brings us together as community. You know, it helps us find common space. So with that said, to your point, there's a back house for every kind of art endeavor. You know, there's a COO. There's the folks that are actually doing. This is one of the most exciting parts, I think, is somebody doing lighting and
absolutely in the infrastructure.
Exactly. When you look at our creative industries writ large and the two creative economy studies we've done, it goes from everything from lighting designers who work at the convention center, who then go to the Old Globe, who then go to a small theater, just because they want to work in theater. They want the opportunity to be in these really exciting places where risky, innovative art is actually being produced. Well, they have the opportunity to work in the tourism industry, etc. I mean, it's an exciting space.
Yeah, there's no question about it. We're chatting with Johnathon Gluss. He's the Prebys Senior Art and Design Fellow in Residence at the Downtown San Diego Partnership. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, nation's longest-running community podcast, brought to you by our fine folks of Mission Fed Credit Union. 6 decades of doing great things in the community. So pleased to have as my guest co-host Ella Dillon. She's a curiosity shipper, meaning she's doing an internship with us at Cloudcast Media. Will be an incoming sophomore at that prestigious school in New York called NYU. A little prejudice there. I was telling Stella my dad went to school at NYU quite a while ago. We got a couple more minutes to go, Johnathon. What can our listeners do to support your efforts and what you folks are trying to accomplish downtown?
Well, firstly, thank you for the opportunity this morning, and thank you for that question.
Yeah.
There is something happening in the arts sector every day in downtown. So firstly, downtown is really easy. It's easy to park. It's easy to navigate. So if you're not used to going downtown, please come back. There's so much going on. If you're a downtown resident, which many of us, I'm a downtown resident, there's something happening every single day. So find out what's going on and join us.
You know, you bring up something that is so true whenever we have nonprofits on, Stella. We're always saying whether they're putting on events or doing X, Y, and Z. And I said, well, what can we do? Well, of course, it's not going to hurt to have donations to help support Turn On Lights on nonprofits, but visit us. Come in,
absolutely.
You know, kick the tires, see what we're doing. That costs nothing to do all that. Johnathon, what a pleasure. Thanks for coming in and chatting. And listen, anybody who knows how important the arts are in every community, San Diego, no different. It's an equalizer. doesn't know any color, doesn't know any ethnicity, doesn't know where you came from. We're all in this together, and just wishing you nothing but great success moving forward, and this will not be the last time we'll have you on the show.
Great. Thank you.
My pleasure. Johnathon Prebys, Senior Art and Design Fellow in Residence at the Downtown San Diego Partnership. Stella Dillon, is this the first time you've been a co-host on a podcast?
Yes, it's the first time.
And how did you like it?
It went well. I mean,
You
never
did-
done that before.
Well, ask Johnathon, how did she do?
Oh, she did great.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Exactly. She's going to be a pro when we get done with this. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. Listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. And to our audience, we hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.